After more than 15 months of devastating war, a ceasefire deal has finally been agreed upon in Gaza and officially took effect on Sunday. While the ceasefire offers a glimmer of hope for an end to the relentless violence, Gaza is left in dire need of aid and reconstruction after enduring unimaginable loss and suffering. In the occupied West Bank, however, the situation remains fraught with tension. At least 6 Palestinians have been killed and dozens injured during an Israeli military raid on Jenin, according to Palestinian health officials. This operation, occurring as Gaza begins to stabilize, underscores the ongoing challenges faced by Palestinians across the region. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended the Jenin raid, describing it as another step towards achieving security in the West Bank. He framed the raid as part of Israel's broader strategy against what he called the Iranian Axis, declaring, "We are acting systematically and decisively against the Iranian Axis wherever it extends its reach, whether in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, or Judea and Samaria." His use of the term Judea and Samaria, the biblical name for the West Bank, reflects Israel's historical claims to the territory, a narrative that many Palestinians see as dismissive of their rights and sovereignty. This latest escalation in the West Bank stands in stark contrast to the fragile ceasefire in Gaza, revealing the complex and ongoing struggles faced by Palestinians. The continued violence highlights the urgent need for lasting solutions that prioritize the dignity, safety, and well-being of all affected communities.
يا اخوي كيف تجيب لي خبز؟ قلت والله ما بعرف يا اخوي، هسه انا صيرت بصفها بالسوق، تأمنها بالسوق واروح مشي، عرفت اجيب لك بجيب لك. سبحان الله، بعديها قعدت ارن عليه على اساس اجيب له، ما بردش، لو مستشهد طلع ونازل بيجي مستشهد. نزل يجيب خبز من باب الدار، دكينا تحتينا، طخت الناس من دبت الغنم.
This is what is left of the building where it is believed Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar was killed by the Israeli military. Now only rubble and destruction remains, as well as this cushion believed to be the one he was sitting on when he was found, displayed for people to see. Palestinian woman Faiza Fogo says he was caught while fighting, not hiding.
This was where Sinwar was. May he rest in peace. He struggled with us and was martyred for us. May he rest in peace. May he rest in peace, and may God bless his bones in heaven. He used to be like us, fighting with us. He was caught while fighting alongside of us, and was not hiding, as people used to say, or hiding in a cemetery, or I don't know what. He used to fight with us, same as the people. May he rest in peace.
Last October, the Israeli military announced that its most wanted enemy was tracked by a mini drone to the ruins of a building in southern Gaza. They filmed him slumped in a chair covered in dust, according to video released by the Israeli authorities. The 15-month conflict has laid waste to the Gaza Strip. Billions of dollars will be needed to rebuild the enclave. On Monday, the second day of a truce between Israel and Hamas, residents and medics said the ceasefire appeared to be holding.
Thank God he reunited me with them, and hopefully he will reunite us with their father, and joy spreads in the houses of all prisoners. We received news of the deal by chance. We heard about it, but we were not sure. The girls started to prepare themselves, thinking that we wanted to be ready, even if we might not get released. Then we were visited by the deputy of the head of the prison, and he told us to get ready in 10 minutes, and that some of us would be released. He was never nice to us, none of them were, but he tried to show some humanity at that point.
Many Gazans displaced by war returned to their hometowns on Monday, only to find everything demolished. In central Gaza's Al Bureij, this man said the area looked like it was hit by a devastating earthquake. And it's even worse in North Gaza, another man said. After a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas took effect on Sunday, attention now shifts to the rebuilding of the coastal enclave. A United Nations damage assessment released this month estimated that 50 million tons of rubble have been left in the aftermath of Israel's bombardment. That could take 21 years to clear and cost up to $1.2 billion. Some of the debris is also believed to be contaminated with asbestos. Meanwhile, a growth in the flow of aid has come as great relief for Gazans who have been battling hunger and the winter cold. Desperate residents were seen rushing towards trucks carrying food and fuel from across the Rafah border on Monday. 600 truckloads of aid are now allowed into Gaza every day of the initial 6-week ceasefire. Half of the aid trucks will be delivered to the north, where experts have warned famine is imminent. After 15 months of war, many are just happy for some quiet. This mother of 9 described her family's first night of feeling at ease without the constant sounds of bombing and ambulance sirens. But the heaviness of war still weighs on her. There will be scars because we lost so many of our beloved ones, she said. There will be as much sadness and pain as there is joy. Yemen's Houthis will limit their attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea and only target Israeli-linked ships. That's according to the Humanitarian Operations Coordination Center, or HOCC, and comes after the Gaza ceasefire. The Sana'a-based center liaises between Houthi forces and commercial shipping operators and is associated with the Houthi military. It said it was stopping so-called sanctions against vessels owned by US or British individuals or entities, as well as ships sailing under their flags. However, it added that, quote, the sanctions will be reinstated in the event of any aggression, according to its email to the shipping industry officials. The Iran-backed Houthis have carried out more than 100 attacks on ships since November 2023. They sunk 2 vessels, seized another, and killed at least 4 seafarers in what they say is solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. The threat has disrupted global trade routes and prompted many of the world's biggest shipping companies to suspend sending cargoes through the Red Sea.
A British teenager on Monday pleaded guilty to murdering 3 young girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance event last July. It was a shocking crime that triggered days of rioting across the UK. On what was due to be the first day of his trial at Liverpool Crown Court, 18-year-old Axel Rudukabana surprised the courtroom by changing his pleas to guilty. He admitted murdering 6-year-old BB King, 7-year-old Elsie Stancombe, and 9-year-old Alice da Silva Aguiar, who were at an event being held for children in the summer vacation. He also entered guilty pleas to 10 charges of attempted murder relating to the attack, and further admitted producing the deadly poison ricin and possession of an Al-Qaeda training manual. Rudukabana was 17 at the time of the incident. Judge Julian Goose said he would sentence Rudukabana on Thursday, and that a life jail term was inevitable.
The murder of 3 young girls in Southport last July shows that Britain faces a new type of terrorism threat in the form of extreme violence perpetrated by loners who were inspired online, said British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer.
The blunt truth here is that this case is a sign. Britain now faces a new threat. Terrorism has changed. In the past, the predominant threat was highly organised groups with clear political intent, groups like Al-Qaeda. That threat, of course, remains. But now, alongside that, we also see acts of extreme violence perpetrated by loners. And so if the law needs to change to recognise this new and dangerous threat, then we will change it, and quickly. And we will also review our entire counter-extremist system to make sure we have what we need to defeat it.
British teenager Axel Radubucana, 18, pleaded guilty to the murders following the knife attack at a Taylor Swift-themed dance event last year, a crime that led to days of violent riots. Starmer added the country's terrorism laws could be changed if needed to recognize a new and dangerous type of threat which is driven by extreme violence online.
Southport must be a line in the sand. But nothing will be off the table in this inquiry. Nothing. And most importantly, it will lead to change. This. But you know and I know that it would not have been right to disclose those details. The only losers, if the details had been disclosed, would be the victims and the families, because it ran the risk the trial would collapse. I'm never going to do that. Never going to do that, because they deserve that justice. And only by having the rules in place can that justice be delivered, as a measure of it now has. And I wouldn't be forgiven if I had.
The government has announced a public inquiry into the murders, promising to examine the failures of state institutions which were warned about Radubucana, but which failed to prevent the attack.
The first item that President Trump is signing is the...
US President Donald Trump signed a flurry of executive orders Monday after he was sworn in, swiftly imposing his will on the US government and signaling a major departure from his Democrat predecessor Joe Biden. He first signed a number of them in front of a crowd at Capital One Arena in Washington, then continued to do so in front of reporters at the Oval Office.
Pardons and commutations relating to events that occurred on January 6, 2021.
They included pardoning 1,500 of his supporters who attacked the US Capitol on January 6th, 4 years ago.
We hope they come out tonight, frankly.
Others declared a national emergency at the US-Mexico border over illegal immigration and axed birthright citizenship for US-born children of immigrants. Trump did not take immediate action on the economy or inflation. Those were the two issues that helped him win re-election. But he talked of imposing tariffs on Canada and Mexico in the near future.
We're thinking in terms of 25% on Mexico and Canada because they're allowing vast numbers of people. Canada's a very bad abuser also. Vast numbers of people to come in and fentanyl to come in. I think we'll do it February 1st.
Trump repealed 78 executive orders signed during the Biden administration, such as an order addressing risks from artificial intelligence, a 50% electric vehicle target by 2030, and Biden's removal of Cuba from the US state sponsors of terrorism list. On equality and the environment, he axed at least a dozen measures that supported racial equity and fought discrimination against gay and transgender people. And Trump pulled the US out from the Paris Climate Change Accord again. He withdrew the US from the pact in his first term in office, an action reversed during the Biden presidency in 2021. Trump on Monday also signed an executive order to delay the enforcement of a ban on TikTok by 75 days.
If we wanted to make a deal with TikTok and it was a good deal and China wouldn't approve it, then I think ultimately they'd approve it because we'd put tariffs on China. Maybe. I'm not saying I would, but you certainly could do that.
Trump also froze hiring in the federal government and ordered its workers to return to office full-time. And sources say Trump's transition team asked more than a dozen senior diplomats to step down from their roles as part of a broader plan to replace non-partisan civil servants with loyalists.
I, Donald John Trump.
As US President Donald Trump took office on Monday and began a sweeping immigration crackdown, migrants waiting in Mexico nervously checked the US government app known as CBP One. The program had allowed hundreds of thousands of migrants to enter the US legally by scheduling an appointment. Some 280,000 people had been logging into the app daily to secure an appointment as of January 7th. Then, on Monday, an alert came through. Existing appointments scheduled through CBP One are no longer valid. US border authorities confirmed they had shut down the app and cancelled appointments, leaving migrants like Nidia Montenegro from Venezuela in tears.
I waited 4 months in Tapachula. We were left in limbo. We don't know what to do. Really, the joy we had, it stops here. We don't know what we're going to do. We are left in limbo.
Montenegro says that she fled violence and poverty at home in Venezuela and survived a kidnapping as she traveled north into Mexico. She made it to the border city of Tijuana on Sunday for a U.S. asylum appointment on Wednesday to finally reunite with her son in New York. But it was too late.
Well, they are authoritarian and have every right to change the rules of the game, but they don't take into account everything we've done as migrants.
Montenegro is among thousands of migrants who had their hopes of legally reaching the US suddenly dashed ahead of their appointments. The move is one of the Trump administration's first measures aimed at curbing immigration. The American Civil Liberties Union said in a federal court filing on Monday that Trump's decision to end the CBP-1 program removed the only avenue to asylum at the US-Mexico border, as they gear up to fight Trump's agenda in court. Republicans recaptured the White House after promising to intensify border security and deport record numbers of migrants. Biden toughened his approach on immigration last year, and the number of migrants caught illegally crossing the border with Mexico fell dramatically. Asylum restrictions last June blocked most migrants crossing illegally from claiming asylum, instead encouraging them to use new legal entry programs, including CBP-1.
Hold or fold? It's the dilemma facing hundreds of Western companies still operating in Russia. That as Donald Trump returns to the White House, promising to end the Ukraine conflict, and while Moscow's tougher exit conditions have also made it costlier to leave. Many companies, including Renault, McDonald's and Heineken, have left Russia since Moscow sent troops into Ukraine 3 years ago. The firms usually took big write-downs and sold their assets at steep discounts demanded by the Kremlin. Others, namely makers of food and hygiene products like PepsiCo and Mondelez, have stayed, citing humanitarian reasons. Russia tightened its exit terms in October to encourage businesses to stay. Moscow demanded discounts of at least 60% on exit transactions and a 35% voluntary contribution to Russia's budget from the deal price. Reuters spoke to 15 people involved in dozens of Western corporate exits from Russia for this story. They said companies still present would carefully watch what Trump can deliver and adjust their plans accordingly. It's far from clear what Trump can accomplish in his second term. His advisors have now conceded the Ukraine conflict will take at least months to resolve. Yet some analysts believe his arrival may give some companies the political cover to stay on in Russia. Others could see prospects for potential sanctions relief as an opportunity to leave. One investor said companies already reluctant to go may be more likely to wait things out.
Supporters and family of Pakistan's Imran Khan protested outside a prison on Friday, where the former Prime Minister was sentenced to 14 years behind bars over land corruption charges. It's a setback to nascent talks between his party and the government aimed at cooling political instability. The anti-graft court delivered the verdict in the garrison city of Rawalpindi, where Khan has been held since August 2023. His wife Bushra Bibi was also given 7 years in prison. The chairman of Khan's PTI party, Gohar Khan, called it a witch hunt and said they would fight the court decision.
He is simply there in the jail just to put a pressure on him, and it's political victimization. We would file an appeal against these judgments and sentences in the Islamabad High Court, and we hope he will get justice.
Khan had been indicted on charges that he and his wife were gifted land by a real estate developer during his premiership from 2018 to 2022 in exchange for illegal favors. The couple had pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors said a trust set up by Khan was a front to illegally receive the property valued at up to 7 billion rupees or about $25 million. Khan's party argued the land was not for personal gain and was for a spiritual and educational institution. The announcement of the verdict was delayed 3 times amid reconciliation talks between PTI and the government. The two sides have been at loggerheads since Khan was ousted from office in 2022. The verdict is the biggest setback for Khan and his party since a surprisingly good showing in the 2024 general election. PTI's candidates were forced to contest as independents, but won the most seats. However, they were still short of the majority needed to form a government. Khan has faced dozens of cases ranging from charges of graft and misuse of power to inciting violence against the state after being removed from office in a parliamentary vote of confidence in 2022. He has either been acquitted or had his sentences suspended in most cases.
3, 2, 1. Ignition.
SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket blasted off from Florida on Wednesday, sending 2 commercial moon landers into space. It's an unusual double moonshot launch that highlights the global rush to explore the lunar surface. One lander is the Resilience, made by Japanese company iSpace. It's iSpace's second attempt at a moon landing after a first try in 2023 failed due to an altitude miscalculation. The other lander, named Blue Ghost, is the first by Texas-based Firefly Aerospace. Firefly is now the 3rd company to launch a moon lander under NASA's public-private commercial lunar payload services program. Countries and private companies worldwide have been aiming for the moon in recent years. They have an eye on its potential to host astronaut bases, as well as possible resources that could be mined for in-space applications. It's turning Earth's natural satellite into a stage for national prestige and geopolitical competition, with echoes of the Cold War-era space race. According to an iSpace executive, Resilience is carrying $16 million worth of custom missions and 6 payloads in total, including an in-house micro-rover that will collect lunar samples. The lander is expected to touch down on the moon's surface around May to June after taking an energy-efficient route. Firefly's Blue Ghost aims to reach the moon 45 days after launch, around March the 2nd. It's carrying 11 payloads from a range of customers, most of them funded by NASA. The US Space Agency has a goal to send humans back to the moon for the first time since 1972 by 2027, though that will likely be pushed back. While China plans to put its own crews on the lunar surface by 2030, following a series of robotic missions. NASA's move to fund public-private missions like Firefly's Blue Ghost is aimed at studying the moon's surface and stimulating private lunar demand before the agency sends humans there through its Artemis program. But it faces potential changes with the incoming administration of Donald Trump. The president-elect has largely sided with SpaceX CEO Elon Musk's vision to focus heavily on Mars.